How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? We got ourselves some Pokemon leaks, so let's get right into it. Now, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to go into some of the official news first, really quickly, just to set the stage, and then get into some pretty massive stuff about winds and waves. So the first thing is, if you haven't already seen it, Pokemon is going to be removing Pokemon Bank, right? So Pokemon Bank is disappearing, and it is really strange that this is happening around the same time that we just got the rumors about Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald getting a re-release on the Switch. So it's weird that there's announcing, you know, the Pokemon Bank being closed down at the same time. And also, they just announced home compatibility for Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red for the Switch version. So this pretty much is an indication, most likely, that we are going to get those Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald re-releases happening, I think, September, October. So that's pretty huge. But it doesn't end there. The big stuff we have to talk about is that none else than Kurwashi Bamasta, this guy, you guys may remember, he is some sort of insider leaker. He actually came back with even more stuff, just a bunch of leaks, a bunch of responses to a bunch of people, a bunch of different things. So we're going to take a look at that because we do have an entire breakdown here from multiple different people, some theories. The biggest breakdown is here from Pori Leaks, who put together a giant list saying, Kurawa, whatever, has returned and provided another Q&A session providing more insight. While nothing has yet been proven with images, they're slowly building reputation and building a more robust profile. The information below has been documented and reported in cooperation with someone I don't know. Interesting name. This is all alleged info with no images. Anything below has the possibility of not being real, so do keep that in mind. But here is the stuff that's there, and the fact that this Kurawasu, whatever you want to call him, character, he has gotten a lot of stuff seemingly correct that matches with other leakers, so it's like, it's corroborated by other people that have more actual legitimate info. But here's what he says, though, which is, apparently there's going to be procedurally generation is still in Winds and Waves. So procedural generation, just in simple terms for those who do not get it, basically just means that islands and locations can be generated. Normally when you make a game, most games are made to be like specifically designed. So every island, for example, in Pokemon, normally every location is designed to be the way it is. But with procedural generation, they basically create a ton of small concept islands, shove it into essentially an algorithm, and let that automatically procedurally create new areas. Think about how Minecraft functions, right? Minecraft procedurally generates new maps all the time, so every map feels different and every experience feels different than the last one whenever you start a new save file, right? So same principle here, that we possibly will have islands that are procedurally generated, which will be a first, if I'm not correct, a first for the Pokemon mainline franchise. I don't know if they've done it in these side games, but for the mainline franchise, that's a first. They've never done that before, which is pretty freaking huge, to be honest with you. It's a pretty big deal for the franchise. But the next thing, though, is post-game has co-op, which is okay. I mean, all right, what does that mean? Post-game has co-op, Netsu boss and raid battles from the storyline. So Netsu boss and raids, Netsu is like the new mechanic. Think about like Titan Pokemon and then like Megas and stuff like that, kind of in that direction, right? And it's going to be related to the battles that you do in the story of the game, and you can do them as co-op battles afterwards. And Sword and Shield like raids will be also back. There's also multiplayer travel agency races as well, which I wonder what that would imply. Then they say, a sickly young girl takes care of Konetsu, and you help her protect it from bad guys as you go around the region. Konetsu, I'm going to assume, is the seed Pokemon, like a small Pokemon you have to take care of. Similar to like Nebby a little bit, right? It's like an important Pokemon for the story, and it was supposed to have an entire mechanic around it, but I don't know if that mechanic still remains or if they've gotten rid of that. Well, frankly, I have no idea. There's not been mentioned as far as I know. Next up, though, defeating bosses during the Legend Tour will empower Konetsu, similar to how Koraidon and Miraidon gain new traversal features. According to Kawasa, Winds and Waves, the story is better than Scarlet and Violet. Okay, you know what? Because I actually think Scarlet and Violet, out of more recent Pokemon games, I think they actually had a decent story. Like, I think the story was not that bad. Again, it is a Pokemon story, so it can only be, you know, so deep. It's like Pokemon stories are not much deeper than a Marvel movie. I can actually say Marvel movies probably have more depth, but generally speaking, Pokemon stories have, like, there's very few of them where it's like genuinely like, holy shit, there's actual peak. I think like Black and White would probably be the prime example where the story is actually like, people consider it like, this is good writing. Pokemon writing is never that much of the focal point, though I like it when it is, because I like games with good stories. Like, I like single-player games that have good plots that I can engross myself in, and the world can just feel alive, and the story feels like it's worth, going through. This is why games like Persona are so popular, and things like that, because they make really good stories around it, and then the gameplay on top and, like, everything else to do is just, like, perfectly matches. But, The fact that he said the story is better, which I already think Scarlet and Violet had an all-right story. It's not the best thing in the world, but it was pretty solid. Saying world building is much stronger in this game. The story has a consistent quality, which that's good to hear. Okay, that's very good. Now, apparently, all 3 story routes have compelling character development. So, story routes is going to be similar to Scarlet and Violet, where you have different paths. My bad. Different paths you can take, right? So you have like the path that takes you down, to do the Elite Four and the championship, and getting your gym badges. The path that's about the legendary. The path that's about like whatever. You get the point. Dealing with the evil team, stuff like that. So apparently each one of them has actual like decent character development, which is good. Karasu is Legends 3. So Karasu is the code name, by the way, if you do not know. That's the leaked code name for another upcoming Pokemon game. And apparently that is going to be Legends 3, which is going to be the next Legends game, right? So we have Legends Arceus, Legends EA, and then the third Legends game is this thing codenamed Karasu, which also Karasu I think refers to like crows, if I'm not mistaken. Now, unlike other games, Elite Four members and the champion show up more throughout the game, which is good. I like that. The previously alleged leaked Dolphin Girl is actually the Water-type Elite Four trainer. Now, we've seen her before, is this character right there. We've seen her like pop up from previous leaks. Saying that the Winds and Waves trailer is currently lower in fidelity than the actual game. Ooh, okay. However, depending on how QA, so QA is quality assurance, that's where basically they hire people to literally play the game to tell them where there are issues, if there's bugs, if there are glitches, low frame rate issues, connection problems, like textures not working properly, stuff like that. Apparently, depending on how QA goes, it could be downgraded back to the trailer quality fidelity. Ooh, okay. That's not a good indication, given that they've had, but Winds and Waves has no excuses to be anything less than amazing, okay? Because they've had more time, they've had plenty of money to do it, they've had extra, time now to work on it, so if it's a bad game, I'm sorry, but that's kind of the last straw for, giving them a pass on making games that are just below average, given the amount that they sell and the amount of people that just are so willing to buy this franchise, even if it is awful at times. I really hope that they make sure that they keep the quality that they set for themselves, apparently, internally. So keep to that quality. Don't downgrade it just because, XYZ reason, whatever. Either way, currently the area with the most performance issues is underwater. That kind of makes sense. It doesn't surprise me, particularly in the Neon Abyss. See, this is where I feel like there are ways to optimize water, and I've been messing around with this because I've been messing with 3D a lot lately myself. I've been learning how to do 3D, and I will be honest with you, game development, 3D, it is difficult. It is very, 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 you have to really work hard to, and again, they're making this for the Switch, which means you have to optimize it even further, but there are ways to make this work without destroying the Switch 2's performance, and the performance of the game. There are ways to do this. And he mentions the Neon Abyss, which is meant to be like an underwater area. So, Pokédex is also not yet finalized, which is kind of weird that they haven't finalized the Pokédex at this point. It seems like it's about time they should have done that, but I digress. It's a bit strange, to say the least. Another thing, though, is Light has a bit of a theory about the actual Water Elite Four, saying, theory about Winds and Waves Elite Four. One of the current leaks claims that points to the Elite Four using water, fire, grass, and electric. And we already seem to know one of them. The girl with the dolphin-shaped hair, who's reportedly the Water-type Elite Four member. But here's where things get interesting. Water, which is rain or drizzle. Fire, sun or sunny day, again, weather-related. Electric terrain. And grassy terrain. So I guess it's trying to imply that there could be that those would make sense because they would be somewhat connected to weather of some sort. But I don't know, man. It's an interesting concept, but we'll see if that actually comes true. That's impossible to say at this point. Again, like I said, Kawasu, he's been tweeting a lot. I think the last time I saw any of his tweets was back in the beginning of July, and now we're in August already. So it's been a while since I've seen him actually tweet anything. But if we scroll up here, we can see some of his more recent tweets, if I'm not mistaken. Starting more recently, let's see, where would that be? Here we go. So the 1st of August, I guess around here. We can start seeing some more of his recent posts. He says, I came into position at the later end of the Champions dev cycle, and it was a rather harrowing experience. Concerned if Iwao is in a leading role again, especially on a project as massive as Seed. So he's claiming that he's worked and or works at these projects, which is interesting. Then also including that he came into his position at the later end of the Champions dev cycle, so Pokemon Champions, and that it was a rather harrowing experience, implying that it didn't go well. Concerned if Iwao is in a leading role again, especially on a project as massive seed. So implying that Iwao, the developer, I think he's the developer. He's a director. I think he's the director of Kazumasa Iwao. So let's just check out his profile a little bit in terms of what he does. So he is a game designer and director, yes, who works at Game Freak since 2008. He's been involved with the main series Pokemon games and game designer since Pokemon Black and White versions. He was appointed by Shigeru Omori as the director of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which I think Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were pretty solid. He also appeared in the form of an NPC, which you guys may know in the games. So he has been part of pretty much all the games since like Platinum. He's been involved in some way. Just got special thanks on Platinum, but then he's been involved like throughout with game battle system design, planning section director, the director of Legends Arceus, because hey, the man did a good job there. And then also World Pokemon and Human planning for Scarlet and Violet DLC. So he didn't do Scarlet and Violet itself. He did the ZA World Pokemon and Human planning, Pokemon Series QA, Pokemon Attribution Team Lead for ZA. Well, we know how that went. And then he's the game director of Champions. And I know Champions is a bit of a... Ooh, you know, like that's I'm not gonna get into the topic of Champions, because that's a can of worms we're not gonna open. But interesting that he says this, if it's true. Again, keep in mind, it could all be just made up. But then he says, don't know anything in regards as the... so somebody asked him, do you know Pokemon Bank's termination was a budget cut regarding the Winds and Waves MMO Lite servers? Since you work at QA, I'd imagine that they would start investing on servers for features after debugging. He says, don't know anything in that regard, as that's an entirely separate division from where I am. But my guess is that it has nothing to do with that. It's more likely that it's Nintendo's wanting all the CDN, like the old like online connections to the 3DS to be shut down. So they just want to shut down anything to do with services that were provided online for old hardware, just to push people to have to interact with the more recent releases. Then somebody asked, do you know if Winds and Waves will be at Worlds? No clue, but I doubt it personally. Okay, which, to be fair, I kind of also doubt it. Then somebody asked here, I don't know if your activity opens up a new mini Q&A session, but if so, could you tell us a bit about Winds and Waves' post game? And this is where he says, ProcGen is still in the game. Yes, you guys already know about the MMO Lite system. So again, the game having some sort of massive multiplayer online features, like think World of Warcraft-esque, right? Systems, and the post game leans into those features. Some of the keystone functions are co-op Netsu bosses, which we already read about, and the whole, as well as multiplayer travel agency races. Then somebody, was asking, is this real? He says it's a LARP, so yeah, it's obviously a fake. Pretty sure we already kind of figured that one out. Somebody else says, sickly young girl takes care of Konetsu, and you help her protect it from the bad guys. We already heard about that when somebody asked him, like, what's the seed Pokemon's deal? Then somebody asked, what you said about the story? Of course, he said the world building is much stronger in these games, and the story is, in terms of quality, consistent throughout the game. Again, we know these things. Legends 3 is Karasu. So most of the stuff we've seen here is the same stuff. Even John, one of our fellow viewers, actually. I know you can't answer all our questions, but I hope you see this one. How are the graphics improving in Winds and Waves? And this is where he says, fidelity was lowered for the trailers for performance, actually. Of course, that's the goal, but we're not quite there yet. It may be downgraded. Optimization cannot get across the finishing line. So he didn't... Okay, so it was a bit differently phrased by him versus what was phrased by Central and or Poryleaks there, because he doesn't necessarily say it the way they did. He just says it may be downgraded if the optimization can get across the finishing line, which at this point, they still have well over a year plus to get to that point. Like, they have enough time still to pretty much, like, conclude it, right? Like, it's not it's not like the game's coming out tomorrow. They still have well over a year and a half almost to actually sort that out, like a year plus. Like a year plus at this point. Because if the game is most likely going to come out next year in November, like most realistically, it's going to be a November like holiday release, 100%. I've seen people being like, it's going to come out in the beginning of the year. It's going to come out early 2027. I don't think so, buddy. I don't think so. It's a new generation. I'm pretty sure it's going to be their big release for the end of the year. It just makes more sense. It's exactly what they did with ZA as well. ZA got announced a year prior to its release, and then, no, almost 2 years prior to release, because it got announced in, like, what, 2020... Dear Lord, my brain is not working. 2024, it got announced, right? 2024 in Pokemon Day February gets announced. We go the entirety of 2024 with no news, no release, no nothing. Everybody thought, hey, the game's going to come out early 2025, right? Then we get the release date and it comes out late 2025, right? So there you go. Same principle here. We got the announcement this year, then in 2027 it's going to come out at the end of the year like it normally would have. It's just that they now announce the games way earlier than you would expect, which is kind of a little bit of an issue in itself, but I digress. It doesn't really matter. I'm not here to argue if that's right or wrong. But in the totality of what we have here, basically we have a situation where Pokemon Bank is shutting down. So it's a big indication that the leaks and the rumors and stuff about a Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald are becoming much, much more real. Especially, by the way, given that Ruby and Sapphire literally have strings of code within Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green Switch versions that indicate that there's a connectivity that can be done with a Ruby and Sapphire like copies that just don't exist yet, right? There's an actual string of code that makes it possible for them to trade with each other, which why would that be there unless they were planning to literally make a Ruby Sapphire port? So it's very possible we're going to get these. Jirachi then being received from Pokemon Home would make sense because we just got Celebi, I think. Oh my god, Celebi. Oh my lord. Celebi. We just got Celebi as a home reward for transferring stuff from Fire Red Leaf Green to home. So Jirachi would make a lot of sense to be the next one because, you know, mythical Pokemon and all that. So yeah, it's interesting to say the least, lads. Interesting to say the least. The next thing though is going to be yet another rumor, and I'm actually curious to see if the Kurawasu guy could actually debunk this one. But here's what it says. So Pokemon Winds and Waves info. Hello, I'm one of the people in the marketing team for the Pokemon Company. Despite the next upcoming games, were not released until the next year, 2027, due to an unexpected delay, due to Nintendo wanting to wait until this is a run-on sentence. Holy shit, and I speak fast to begin with. Due to Nintendo wanting to wait until the Switch 2 sells, I guess, a lot more units. Also, while getting Game Freak gets more time of polishing the game through the quality control stages, right? So QA, I guess. But since the games were intended for this year's, this is a lot of grammar mistakes, and it's coming from me. English is not even my first language, so I'm assuming this person's first language isn't English either. But either way, this is the year of the 30th anniversary. We still have to make trailers and marketing promos. First of all, they told us not to make a trailer for the starter evolutions since they want players to be surprised of their evolutions when they actually finally play the game. But the final evolutions are Fire Normal for Pombon's final evolution. He's basically becoming just an orange Arcanine. Isn't Arcanine already orange? Or am I colorblind? Water Psychic for Gekwa's final evolution. It becomes a mix between Salazzle and Inteleon, ironic, until it becomes a larger and curls up. Grass Fighting for Broud's final evolution. Think Blaziken, but with the same coloring, the exact same coloring as his tail feathers. Is like a peacock sort of, like the last gen final water evolution in his head. It's basically like Bert from Sesame Street, but still with his beak. Okay. There'll be 16 regional forms and including new evolutions, regional ones too. The first regional form and evolution is another Meowth. I'm sorry, man, but Meowth is getting too much love, bro. Like, we gotta let it go, man. It's completely gray with a hooked tail tip and blue eyes inspired by Raz cat. It's a unique breed of cat from Indonesia. It has different types. And again, they are basing the region on Indonesia, so makes sense. It has different types of coin, obviously inspired by Indonesian currency, with a rounded look and a bird icon. It evolves into a regional Persian, which basically looks like a leopard with gray spots and a bushy tail at the end tip with a jewel on his forehead inspired by the jade pendant. Then he continues saying, there will be new regional split evolutions of Smoochums. The original woman who started the original Jinx controversy, Miss Crawford, granted the Pokemon Company and Game Freak to use Jinx again in material and game usage. Why would... What? I don't think there was a specific... This does not sound like a real thing. I'm pretty sure it was just like a... Miss Crawford? Is this a real thing? Because, like, I think Jinx was just removed for, like, basically, like, racial reasons, and that's why they didn't use it specifically. We've seen Jinx before, like, since then. I think the only Pokemon that is not allowed was, like, Kadabra for like because it was like a magician who like didn't allow the usage because he said it infringed on his copyright or something. So I don't know what Jinx is coming in here. Am I missing something? Because I don't really pay attention to Jinx as a Pokemon, but am I missing something here? You guys can inform me if I'm completely just missing something here. But either way, apparently inspired by heritage fashion with kebaya and regional textiles with a grass psychic typing. Jinx will be more of the same typing too, with an added intricate headpiece and an umbrella. Its split evolution is called kebaya. It's a bit skinnier with more vibrant clothing stemming from other cultures like the Chinese and Malay with the fan. Okay, fair enough, whatever. Moving on, we go to the next thing, which is the final regional form I will talk about is Lantern. It's still electric. Okay, still electric water, with some ground type moves due to it being inspired by the yellow frogfish. It will hop around and walk on its fins at the bottom of the ocean. When you actually dive in, it will also camouflage, and you will see it in game. Wait, you see it in wait what? You will have to look in game to find it. You will have to see its tail light glowing pretty brightly while it's camouflaged. Okay, it looks mainly yellow and red strips around its fins. All right, fine. That's pretty much all of it. All of the information for the trailer I made for the marketing cycle. Those are the people from the marketing teams that have made other trailers that I haven't seen, mean that I can't describe the information or haven't been told about it either way. So I'm gonna be real. This sounds a little far-fetched because realistically, anyone could say most of these things. Some of the stuff just seems a little just out there, but who knows? Maybe it is real, maybe it's not. This is why you guys are going to be telling me that your thoughts in the comment section down below, because ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for today's video. Of course, drop a like down below, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day.